You ever notice how life has a way of throwing curveballs just when you think you finally got the hang of things? That was me 6 months ago, 38 years old, a solid career, a mortgage with the kind of interest rate bankers brag about, and a wife I thought was still on my team. Keyword, thought. Her name's Vanessa. Gorgeous, yes. But in hindsight, gorgeous like a snake with good lighting. It started small, late nights at the office, forgotten dinners, a sudden obsession with Pilates. I didn't think much of it. I told myself, relax, man. She's probably just finding herself. Turns out, she was finding herself all over another guy's apartment. Funny thing is, I didn't discover it from her. I got tipped off by Chloe, of all people, Vanessa's college friend who never really liked me, but apparently liked watching people crash and burn less. She texted me one afternoon. Chloe, don't marry her. Me. That's a little cryptic. Care to explain? Chloe, not over text. Meet me. So there I was, sitting in Old Pine Park like a kid waiting to be picked up from detention. Chloe shows up, no makeup, jeans, hoodie, looking like she came straight from an intervention. She doesn't even sit, just shoves her phone in my face. And there it was. Vanessa, my fiancée, wearing a cheap tiara that said bride-to-be, lip-locked with some shirtless guy in a fake cop hat. Classy. I just stared at the photo. You know that moment when you realize the joke everyone's been laughing at is you? Yeah, that was me, center stage. Chloe didn't sugarcoat it. Chloe, she left with him. Told her friends not to tell you. Said it was her last night as a free woman. Me. And you're telling me this why? Chloe, because you deserve better. That was the moment I knew two things. Vanessa wasn't just reckless, she was calculated. I wasn't going to play the fool in her little game. And that's when I decided I'd marry her if she wanted. Oh, I'd play along. I'd smile, nod, write the checks, even rehearse my vows. But I wasn't going to be her victim. I was going to be her plot twist. You'd think after seeing those photos I'd call the whole thing off, right? Not me. That's what she expected. That's the script. The faithful fiancé finds out, throws a fit, and she cries, "It was a mistake," before going back to texting Mr. Discount Stripper. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. Instead, I came home that night and kissed her on the cheek like I hadn't just seen her audition for a low-budget Vegas review. She looked surprised for half a second, but then she leaned in, all smiles, like nothing had happened. Me, how was Pilates? Vanessa, great. Killer workout. You should try it sometime. Me, maybe I will. You'd have to show me the moves. Vanessa, laughs. You'd probably pull something. Pull something. Yeah, like the rug out from under her. From that day forward, I played the perfect fiancé. I paid the caterer. I helped her pick out flower arrangements. I even pretended to be excited about the signature cocktail she invented for the reception, something pink, fizzy, and disgusting, which she named the Blushing Bride. Cute. Meanwhile, I was quietly building a case file thicker than her contour makeup kit. Phone records, bank statements, screenshots Chloe kept sending me. I didn't just want to catch her. I wanted her to walk straight into the trap smiling. At one point, she actually had the nerve to say, "Vanessa, babe, you've been so supportive lately. I don't know what I'd do without you." Me. That's what I'm here for. You'll never have to find out. And she believed me. Because the one thing Vanessa loved more than the spotlight was thinking she'd outsmarted everyone else. But here's the kicker. She wasn't the only one being sneaky. Turns out, the guy in the photo, not just a random fling. He had a name, a real job, and a very inconvenient girlfriend of his own. Guess who I made friends with on Facebook the next week? That's right, his girlfriend. And while Vanessa was planning a wedding, I was planning an ending. Her name was Rachel, the girlfriend of my fiancé's side piece. And let me tell you, she was not what I expected. I figured she'd be the type who posted inspirational quotes with pastel backgrounds and forgave easily. Nope. Rachel had the sharp look of someone who'd been through fire and learned how to walk barefoot on the ashes. I sent her a message that night. Nothing dramatic, nothing messy, just enough to light the fuse. Me, "Hey Rachel, I think we should talk. It's about your boyfriend." Rachel, "Who's this?" Me, "The guy in the photos with my fiancée, Vanessa." No reply for 20 minutes. Then, just 3 words. "Rachel, send them now." So I did. Every last screenshot Chloe had sent me. It took less than 5 minutes for her typing bubble to appear. "Rachel, I knew it." Me, "You don't sound surprised." Rachel, "That's because I'm not. He's a repeat offender. She's just the latest." Me, So what do you want to do? Rachel, burn them both. That was the moment I realized I wasn't alone. The next week, Vanessa and I went through wedding rehearsals while Rachel and I rehearsed something else entirely, the art of patience. We shared notes, compared lies they'd fed us, and even laughed at how similar their excuses were. Rachel, he said he was working late. Me, Pilates class. Same night. Same time. Rachel, they're not even creative. Me, honestly insulting. I almost felt bad for them. Almost. The wedding date crept closer. Vanessa grew sweeter, more affectionate. Probably out of guilt, though she would never admit it. She even called me her rock, which was ironic, considering she'd been climbing someone else like a jungle gym. But here's the thing about rocks. They don't move. They wait. And when the landslide comes, they crush everything in their path. And the landslide was coming. People always think revenge is an explosion, loud, messy, over in seconds. But real revenge? It's a blueprint. It's quiet drafting and careful measurements, months before the hammer ever swings. And I was in full architect mode. The first step was simple. Keep playing the perfect fiancé. You'd be amazed how easy it is to fool someone who thinks she's fooling you. Vanessa was practically glowing every time we met with vendors, her hand squeezing mine under the table as she smiled at florists and caterers like she'd just won some kind of jackpot. Babe, we're going to have the wedding of the year, she gushed one evening, flipping through a glossy bridal magazine while sipping her blushing bride. Yeah, I said, leaning back in my chair. Everyone will remember it. She smiled, missing the double meaning completely. Meanwhile, Rachel and I were in constant contact. Not in a romantic way, don't get me wrong. We were allies, co-generals in a war our partners didn't even know had been declared. She had a razor-sharp memory and a whole archive of messages from Mr. Cop Hat, which we compiled neatly alongside my own evidence on Vanessa. We had receipts, literal and figurative. The second step was information. I wanted to know every crack in Vanessa's carefully painted mask. So I played dumb, asked innocent questions. She thought I was being sweet. Me. So who's all coming from your side? Vanessa. Just family and a few friends. Oh, and Jason. He said he'd bring a date. Me. Jason, huh? The guy from your office? Vanessa. Laughs. Don't worry, he's harmless. I smiled and nodded, filing away Jason. Harmless under the category obvious lie. Step 3 was the hardest. Patience. There were nights when I wanted to throw those photos in her face, to watch her squirm, to tell her I knew exactly what kind of snake she was. But patience, I reminded myself. She thinks she's directing the movie, but I'm the one with the script. The real challenge was keeping my mask on at home. Vanessa had a radar for weakness. If she sensed even a hint of suspicion, she'd pivot, play the victim, cry, spin some story that might have made me doubt myself. I couldn't let her catch the scent. One night, as we sat on the couch watching Netflix, she rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, I don't know what I'd do without you. And I whispered back, you'll never have to find out. She smiled. I didn't. The day of the rehearsal, 2 weeks before the wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner. Perfect opportunity for reconnaissance. Vanessa was in her element, laughing too loudly, tossing her hair, soaking in the attention like a diva at her farewell concert. I watched her from across the table, calm as stone. Rachel was there too, though Vanessa didn't know it. She came as the +1 of one of my groomsmen, a little trick I arranged behind the scenes. We exchanged a brief glance, and Rachel gave me the faintest nod. The operation was a go. Vanessa leaned over to me halfway through dessert, her lipstick smudged from too much wine. You're so quiet tonight, she said. Just taking it all in, I replied. Memories, you know? She smiled, thinking I was being sentimental. If only she knew the memory I was about to give her would be burned into her brain forever. The setup. The next few days were a blur of final touches. Dresses, tux fittings, a cake tasting I pretended to enjoy. All while Rachel and I were tightening the screws on the plan. We agreed the wedding day itself was the stage. It had to be then. Big audience, no escape, maximum impact. The idea wasn't to humiliate her in a loud, messy way. She thrived on drama. No, the goal was silence. To take away her favorite weapon, attention. The night before the wedding, she kissed me goodnight and whispered, Tomorrow, I become Mrs. Harris. I smiled in the dark. Tomorrow, I said. But in my head, tomorrow, you lose everything. Wedding morning. I woke up early, calm. You'd think I'd be nervous, but I felt like a man about to close a long, grueling deal. My tux was laid out. My phone buzzed. It was Rachel. Rachel, all set. He thinks he's surprising her with a necklace before the ceremony. Guess who bought it? Me. Perfect. Showtime. I met Vanessa in the bridal suite before the ceremony. She looked stunning, I'll admit. Not just beautiful, radiant. Like a woman who believed she'd won. She twirled in her gown, her eyes sparkling. "What do you think?" she asked. I studied her for a moment, then smiled softly. "You look exactly like the woman I fell in love with." Her eyes softened, and for a brief second, I almost felt guilty. Almost. The ceremony. The room was packed. Family, friends, coworkers. Cameras ready, music swelling. Vanessa walked down the aisle, every step rehearsed, her smile glowing. She was eating up every second, convinced this was her fairy tale. The officiant began. The usual words. The vows were exchanged. Her voice trembled with what she thought was love, but I heard only lies. When it was my turn, I took a deep breath, looked right into her eyes, and said, "Vanessa, I promised myself I would stand here today and tell the truth. So here it is. I know about him." A ripple went through the room. Her smile froze. "I know about the bachelorette party. I know about the late nights. And I know you thought you'd never get caught." Gasps. Whispers. Someone dropped a champagne glass. Vanessa's lips parted, her face draining of color. "What are you?" she started. But I held up a hand. "No. You've had your stage long enough. It's my turn." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were the photos Rachel had given me. I placed them gently on the altar. "This," I said, my voice steady, "is who you've been while planning to become my wife." She stared at the photos, her hands trembling. "I won't be marrying you today. Or ever." Silence. The kind that cuts sharper than any scream. And then, without another word, I turned and walked down the aisle. Calm. Steady. Leaving her to face the wreckage of her own choices. Behind me, the whispers grew louder, the sound of her world collapsing in real time. Rachel was waiting by the door. She met my eyes and smirked. "Told you we'd burn them both," she said. And together, we walked out into the sunlight. You ever hear a whole room exhale at once? That's what it sounded like when I dropped those photos on the altar. A wave of gasps, whispers, the unmistakable shuffle of people turning in their seats to see if what they'd just heard was real. Spoiler, it was. I didn't run. I didn't storm out. I walked. Slow. Calm. Like a man leaving a job interview he knew he just nailed. Behind me, Vanessa's voice cracked for the first time in years. "Vanessa. Adam. Wait, what are you doing?" Funny how she didn't ask why. She knew. That told me everything I needed. Rachel was already standing by the double doors in a sleek black dress that made her look like the only sane person in the room. When I reached her, she leaned in just enough so only I could hear. "Rachel, you handled that better than I would have." Me. I wasn't about to give her a screaming match. She'd love that. She smirked. "Rachel, you cut the mic on her entire show." We pushed the doors open together, sunlight spilling into the aisle like a spotlight on our exit. I didn't look back. Not once. Outside, the parking lot was already buzzing. A few guests had rushed out to check on me, but I waved them off. I wasn't interested in pity or half-hearted sympathy. Besides, the real show was still going on inside. Rachel pulled her phone out and showed me a message she'd just received. "Rachel, guess what?" He texted me. I raised an eyebrow. "Me, what did he say?" She read it aloud. "Him. Babe, don't believe what you just heard. She's lying. You're the one I really love." I couldn't help laughing. Already running damage control. Rachel shook her head, almost amused. "Rachel, he doesn't even realize we're on the same team." We both knew what that meant. Our job wasn't over. Meanwhile, inside. Later, I'd hear about how Vanessa tried to spin it. First, denial. Then anger. Then tears. The three-act play of a guilty woman exposed. But the problem with an audience that large is, once the curtain drops, you don't get an encore. Her bridesmaids scattered like pigeons at a fireworks show. Her mother fainted, literally fainted, clutching her pearls like a scene out of some soap opera. And the groom's side? My side. They were stone silent, watching the empire of Vanessa the Perfect Bride collapse in real time. The officiant didn't know whether to dismiss everyone or start reading psalms. From what I heard, someone eventually stood up and just said, "Well, I guess that's it." And people started filing out. I almost wished I'd stayed to watch. Almost. But some things are sweeter when you imagine them. The phone calls. By the time Rachel and I got back to my car, my phone had blown up with more notifications than a teenager's TikTok feed. 36 missed calls, 12 voicemails, half from Vanessa, the rest from numbers I didn't recognize, probably her bridesmaids and her relatives who wanted me to reconsider. I didn't answer a single one, but I did play one voicemail. It was Vanessa's voice, frantic, tear-soaked. Vanessa, Adam, please, it's not what you think. He doesn't mean anything to me. It was stupid. I was drunk. I didn't. Please just come back inside. We can talk about this. Please. I hit delete before she could finish. Rachel glanced at me. Rachel, you're not tempted? Even a little? Me. Not anymore. She buried herself. I just handed her the shovel. Rachel smiled faintly, like she was proud. Rachel, then what's next? The twist in the plan. Here's the thing about revenge. You think the moment you deliver it, the story's over. But it's not. That's just the intermission. My plan didn't end with walking out of that wedding. No, that was just the public unveiling. The real part was what came after. You see, I hadn't just been collecting evidence for a confrontation. I'd been careful, methodical. Joint bank accounts? Frozen. Our shared savings? Quietly transferred to an account in my name weeks before the big day. Her credit cards? Closed. The lease on the apartment we shared? Ended. I hadn't just left Vanessa at the altar. I'd left her with absolutely nothing. And here's the best part. She didn't know it yet. Later that night, Rachel and I met up at a little diner off the interstate. The kind of place with sticky menus and coffee that tastes like burnt hope. We sat across from each other in a booth, the chaos of the day still buzzing in the back of my mind. Rachel, you could have just called off the wedding quietly. Saved yourself the drama. Me. That's what she wanted me to do. Quiet. Safe. Forgettable. She thrives when she controls the story. I wanted to take that away. She stirred her coffee. Smirking. Rachel, so what now? You just walk away? I leaned back, smiling for the first time in weeks. Me. Not quite. I pulled a small envelope from my jacket pocket. Inside were 2 flash drives. I slid one across the table to her. Rachel, what's this? Me. Every screenshot, every message, every receipt. Backup copy. Do with it what you want. Send it to his boss, his mom, his dog. I don't care. Rachel laughed, shaking her head. Rachel, you're dangerous. Me, no. Just done being the punchline. We clinked coffee mugs like conspirators sealing a deal. Vanessa's world crumbles. By the next morning, my phone was still lighting up like a Christmas tree. I ignored it all. But then an email came through from our landlord. Subject line, notice of termination. Turns out Vanessa had tried to access the rent account to cover some of her sudden expenses. The account she thought she controlled. Imagine her surprise when she found out the balance was zero. The landlord had already confirmed the lease had been terminated effective the week before. I could picture her standing there, wedding dress wrinkled, phone in hand, realizing she didn't even have a place to sleep that night. I didn't smile. Not then. But I won't lie, it felt good. The unexpected knock. 2 days later, I was sitting at home when there was a knock on the door. I half expected it to be Vanessa, mascara streaked, ready to beg for forgiveness. But it wasn't. It was Rachel. She stood there with a sly grin and a manila folder in her hand. Rachel, mind if I come in? Inside, she laid the folder on my table and slid it toward me. Inside were photos. Not just of Vanessa with her fling. No, these were financial records. Hotel receipts. Credit card charges. Enough to prove she'd been funneling money from a joint account I didn't even realize she had access to. Rachel, thought you'd want to see what else your bride-to-be was up to. I flipped through them slowly, feeling the heat rise in my chest. Me. She didn't waste time. Rachel leaned back in her chair, watching me carefully. Rachel, so, how cruel do you want to get? And that, right there, was the moment I realized the story wasn't ending anytime soon. Vanessa thought I'd humiliated her at the altar. But the real revenge? That was just warming up. If you've ever seen a puppet show, you know the trick. The puppet thinks it's dancing, but the strings tell a different story. By the time Vanessa figured out her strings were tangled, I was already holding the crossbar. After Rachel dropped that manila folder on my table, we got to work. Turns out, Vanessa wasn't just a cheater, she was sloppy. A trail of receipts led us straight into the kind of mess only someone with an ego that size could create. Hotels, spa trips, jewelry. She'd been using the joint credit card like it was Monopoly money. And the best part? She didn't realize every charge over $500 required both our signatures, which meant her little purchases were, legally, fraud. Rachel leaned over the table as I flipped through the papers. Rachel, she really thought she was untouchable, didn't she? Me, she still does. But she's about to learn gravity applies to everyone. Phase 1, the narrative. I didn't just want Vanessa exposed. I wanted her to lose control of the story. So I made a phone call. To a friend. Not a best man, not a relative, an old classmate of mine who happened to run the biggest gossip blog in the city. The kind of site that chews up scandals and spits them out across every Facebook feed in a 50-mile radius. I didn't give him everything. Just enough. A blurred photo of her kissing Mr. Cop hat, a few redacted receipts, and one sentence. Local bride caught in scandal on wedding day. By morning, it was everywhere. Her coworkers saw it. Her boss saw it. Her yoga class saw it. And thanks to the algorithm gods, so did her parents' church group. Vanessa called me 20 times that day. I let them all go to voicemail. One, however, I saved. Vanessa, Adam, please take it down. You don't understand. I'll lose my job. People are calling me. I can't even leave the house. Please, we can work this out. I replayed it 3 times. Not because I cared, but because there was something satisfying about hearing the unshakable Vanessa finally sound breakable. Phase 2, the finances. I scheduled a meeting with our bank. When the manager pulled up the joint account, Vanessa's recent spree was all over the screen like a neon billboard. I slid the folder of receipts across the desk. Bank manager, sir, do you want to press charges? Me, not yet. Let's just freeze her access. Quietly. Bank manager, she won't be able to use the card at all. Me, that's the idea. When Vanessa tried to buy groceries the next morning, the card declined. Then the gas station. Then her nail salon. By lunch, she was calling me again. Vanessa, what did you do? My card isn't working. Me. Oh, you mean our card? Strange. Must be a glitch. Her scream nearly blew my eardrum. I hung up. Phase 3, the ally. Rachel wasn't just along for the ride. She was essential. While I dismantled Vanessa's finances, Rachel worked her own angle. She sent screenshots of her ex's messages to his HR department. The man in the cop hat was apparently also a manager at a mid-sized tech firm that didn't look kindly on employees using work trips for personal escapades. By the end of the week, both of them were suspended pending investigation. Rachel, feels good, doesn't it? Me, like finally exhaling after holding your breath too long. Rachel, don't get comfortable. She's not done yet. And she was right. The counterattack. Vanessa finally showed up at my place 2 weeks after the wedding that wasn't. She didn't knock, just barged in, like she still had a key to my life. She wore a hoodie, hair in a messy bun, mascara smudged like she'd been crying for days. Vanessa, how could you humiliate me like that? I didn't even look up from my laptop. Me, you humiliated yourself. I just pulled the curtain. She slammed her hands on the table. Vanessa, you ruined me. My job, my reputation, everything. I closed the laptop slowly, finally meeting her eyes. Me, no, Vanessa, you ruined you. I just stopped pretending. For a second, I thought she might actually break. Instead, she sneered. Vanessa, you think you've won? You'll never move on. You'll always be the guy who got left at the altar. I leaned back, smiling. Me, funny, because I don't feel left. I feel free. That hit her harder than yelling ever could. She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frames on my wall. Rachel, who'd been listening from the kitchen, peeked her head out. Rachel, you do realize she's not just going to crawl away quietly, right? Me, I'm counting on it. The unexpected gift. A week later, a package arrived on my doorstep. No return address. Inside, a flash drive. No note. Just the drive. I plugged it into my laptop, carefully scanning it first. Then the files popped up. Videos. Dozens of them. Vanessa and her fling, taken from what looked like a hotel security feed. Not explicit, nothing obscene, but enough to show timestamps, locations, and a whole lot of proof she hadn't just slipped once. Someone had been watching. Someone who didn't like her either. I called Rachel. Me, you didn't send me a gift, did you? Rachel, not me. But I'd say you've got a fan. It wasn't the evidence that got me. It was the realization. Vanessa wasn't just careless. She was despised. I wasn't the only one keeping receipts. The decision. Sitting there, staring at the files, I realized I had 2 choices. Drop the hammer. Leak the videos. End her socially, professionally, permanently. Hold on to them. Wait. Let her wonder when the axe might fall. I chose option 2. Sometimes, the fear of a blade is sharper than the blade itself. When Vanessa called me again, this time begging for one more chance, I just said, "Me, you know what the worst part is? You don't even know how much I know. Sleep well." And I hung up. The epilogue that isn't. People ask me now if I regret not marrying her. And I laugh. Regret? That woman handed me a gift, clarity. She thought I'd collapse. She thought I'd rage. She thought I'd chase her. Instead, I stood tall, smiled in her face, and left her holding the bag of her own lies. And when the time comes, if she ever tries to climb out of the hole she dug, I've still got that flash drive, sitting in a drawer like a fire extinguisher. Not because I need it, but because it's nice knowing I could. Rachel put it best the last time we grabbed coffee. Rachel, you didn't just get revenge. You rewrote the ending. Mia, and the best part? She never saw it coming. And that, my friend, is the cruelest twist of all. When people like Vanessa lose control, they don't disappear, they escalate. She showed up again, this time dressed to kill. Perfect hair, flawless makeup, heels that clicked like a metronome counting down her patience. She smiled like nothing had happened. Vanessa, Adam, let's stop this. We can rebuild. Everyone makes mistakes. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. Me, mistakes are spilling coffee. You built a whole lifestyle out of lying. Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes flashed. Vanessa, I'll fix it. I'll be better. Just don't throw away what we had. I tilted my head, pretending to consider. Me, you don't want me back. You just want your life back. That's when the tears came, a classic move. But her mascara didn't run. Too perfect. Too rehearsed. She was acting, and I wasn't buying a ticket. She left in a huff, but I knew that wasn't the end. Not with Vanessa. Sure enough, a week later, I got an email. Subject line, urgent. It was from Vanessa's lawyer. She was filing for emotional damages. Her claim? That I had humiliated her at the altar without just cause. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. Emotional damages. She must have Googled how to sue someone when you're caught cheating. But I didn't just ignore it. I responded. Politely. Professionally. With attachments. Every photo. Every receipt. Every time-stamped file from that anonymous flash drive. Her lawyer called mine the next day. Case withdrawn. Rachel texted me that night. Rachel, she's cornered. Now what? Me. Now we let her swing. Vanessa tried one final trick, playing the victim. Social media posts about how I had abandoned her, how she was healing from betrayal. The usual manipulative nonsense designed to get sympathy from people who didn't know the real story. But I had a card left to play. I uploaded one post of my own. No rant, no accusations. Just a picture of the wedding invitation with the words, "Sometimes, the best thing you can say is nothing at all. The truth speaks for itself." And in the comments, Rachel dropped one simple line. Check your DMs before you believe everything you read. Within hours, Vanessa's sympathy army evaporated. People had the screenshots, the photos, the proof. She deleted her post by morning. And for the first time in her life, Vanessa had no audience. Weeks passed. I thought that was the end. But then I got a letter in the mail. From the bank. Turns out, Vanessa had one last account she hadn't touched yet, a trust her grandmother had set up years ago. She couldn't access it without my signature. And here's the kicker. If we'd married, she would have gotten full control. She called me the second she realized. Voice trembling, for real this time. Vanessa, Adam, please. If you sign, I can get back on my feet. I'll pay you back. I swear. I paused, letting her stew in the silence. Me, you remember at the altar when you asked what I was doing. This is what I was doing. Making sure you never use me as a stepping stone again. Her voice cracked. Vanessa, you can't do this to me. Me, I already did. Goodbye, Vanessa. And I hung up. I didn't need the money. I didn't need the trust. What I needed was the knowledge that her safety net had vanished, because she'd cut every rope herself. Rachel called later that night. Rachel, so that's it? Me, that's it. Rachel, thinks she'll ever try again? Me, probably. But next time, it won't be with me. I sat back, finally breathing easy. Vanessa had played her games, and I had given her the ending she deserved. Not with shouting, not with violence, but with silence, strategy, and one final twist. Because the cruelest revenge isn't destroying someone. It's leaving them with nothing but the echo of what they lost. And that's exactly what I did.